Welcome everyone to another video review with Vino the Tavuran. Now straight away, Vino takes Oda from the article really nicely. Again, built through self-discovery, so never trained an article indication per se, just learning through repetition and being given the opportunity to take note of the article in previous sessions. Now we see here that Vino is sort of looking lost, their head's up, and they're a little bit confused. It's because they've run straight forward and there's clearly almost no Oda there for them to work. What we can see here now though is that Vino has to figure out for themselves, as they know that their handler is not going to save the day, and they have a really beautiful change of behavior there where they've locked onto the Oda of the track layer, they've found their exit, they've got the direction of travel, and Vino gets to work. Now we'll see this a couple of times throughout this track where Vino will sort of stop, they'll lift their head, they'll look a little lost. In this particular case here, Vino gives a little bit of a stress shake as they've essentially gone outside of where the sort of strongest part of the track is with the Oda. And they've realized it, and then they've realized that they then have to solve the problem again. Now, this is really, really good stuff in terms of the learning process, as each time this happens, Vino is learning really good lessons independently of exactly where the Oda is, how to pick up the track again for themselves without the handler having to grab the leash and pull them onto where the handler thinks the track is. Again, the dog has the freedom to learn for themselves and become a master of its own senses. So really, really happy to see the way Vino's working this, whilst it may be a little bit clunky and require a little bit of patience at this point of training. What I'm really, really, really happy with is Tyra's leash handling here, maintaining fairly constant pressure on the line so as to not crowd the dog, not pull the dog where they think they should be going, just giving the dog the space they need to work independently in the way that they see fit. So really, really good work there overall so far. As we've seen throughout this track, Vino's had a bit of a heavy right foot, so to speak, likely due to the conditions of both the terrain and the ambient temperature, humidity, and the wind, influencing the dog to bring them down to the right each time. Now here we could have avoided this by having the leash up a bit higher, avoid that little tangle there. And then here, this is just unfortunate, and this is just tracking life. Nice lunge there to try and recover the leash, doesn't always work. But what's really good though here is that Vino doesn't really pay too much attention to what's going on behind them, and we can see the change of behavior there where they've essentially picked up the track once more and found their way straight into the track layer. Track layer is, for those playing at home, is just a little bit further straight ahead, and Vino does a really, really great job of finding their way in and locating them. So, you know, that's life, those things happen. As you work on with a longer leash, you can sort of avoid those issues a lot more. Does suck when you lose the leash, but, you know, really, really pleased the way that Vino was absolutely locked onto Oda and committed and worked their way to the end, even without you. So really, really good track overall. So perfect way to start a track here again for Vino. So again, we're approaching straight onto the article. However, the track is actually exited out to the left here, 90 degrees. Vino goes to the straight line, goes for the easy win. However, again, there is no Oda there. That's not where the person has gone. And you can see them lost again a little bit here as well. So really, really nice handling. The only thing I would suggest in future though is you can probably limit your leash length just a touch more so that they don't get wrapped around that tree potentially. That can end badly sometimes. But here we see the change of behavior. Vino locks on really, really nicely and we are off. So really, really, that is a perfect way to start a track. So this track gives us an opportunity to talk about a really, really important skill, which is called cutting the track. Now, as we'll see shortly, Vino is going to show us actually where the corner is on this particular track, which we can take note of in just a moment. But for now, this whole segment from taking odor at the beginning of the track up until this point coming up, we've had really consistent body language. So it's really important to note when we see stuff like this, where they pause, they look back at us, in this particular example, that, hey, take note of physically where that occurred, as that is a pretty important clue or a piece of data that's going to help us make decisions in the future. So the lesson there is to take note of where you have key changes of behavior. The segment after that here is just Vino following the blown odor until they've run out completely. Now, that happens, and it's not the end of the world. The key thing is just someone as you as the handler is able to read that and understand what is happening. As we can see here, Vino then switches into hunting behavior, trying to figure out where the track is, where the odor is, and you do a nice job of working your way back because clearly there's nothing at this point here. So what do I suggest you do when you're faced with the situation that you're in right now? So for me, what I like to do is I like to shorten the leash right up for the dog, give them just like 1 or 2 meters out in front of me. I'll then walk back to where I last was confident that I had clear, consistent tracking behavior, and also back to any point where I might have seen a significant change of behavior. In this instance, it would have been that first head pop. Now, you eventually do that, which is excellent, but it's the preceding 3 or 4 minutes, which I'm going to fast forward, which you figure out for yourself what isn't working, which is essentially if you walk along and give the dog lots of slack, you'll see the dog take the slack, move forward, and then eventually they'll look back at you rather confused and not entirely sure because there's effectively no odor there for them to work. Also, too, you'll notice that if you give them enough space to move, they'll just take you for a bit of a trot. This is something I like to call tracking on hopes and dreams, where you can see that the dog really actually has nothing. You've seen no clear changes of behavior that tell you that the dog has, picked up the track again. You just see this sort of like almost lack of intensity, sort of movement, that you can kind of tell contrasts quite starkly to when Vino actually does have odor. So we'll fast forward to the end, which is effectively where you do exactly what you should do, which is shorten the leash up, take them back to where you last had a clear change of behavior combined with clear, consistent body language. And we'll see Vino actually does a wonderful job of picking the track up and finishing it off. And also too, before I do fast forward, I'll just say this about Vino's abilities to track. What's quite remarkable is at this very, very junior level of training that we've got under Vino's belt, with not a huge amount of experience, Vino handles about a 5-minute gap where they've got effectively no odor before picking the track back up in an area that's got quite a bit of contamination, high wind. We've aged the track out a little bit. So there's a lot of factors here that are really working against Vino that he really effectively overcomes. Some dogs, it's worth saying, at this point in training would have not picked the track back up as they would have effectively forgotten who it is they're tracking and lost the plot. So in that regards, Vino does an incredible job of remembering what it is they're meant to be doing. And so when you do cut that leash down, you cut back to where you last had that change of behavior and that consistent body language, it enables Vino to get back to work really, really nicely for the win. So in that regard, absolutely phenomenal work. But yeah, just to reiterate, as I'll fast forward in just a second here, shorten the leash up, go back to where I had the behavior, and I keep them on that short leash, controlling where it is we're walking until I see a change of behavior, and then I'll give them the leash to work with. So fast forwarding here up until the point where we're cutting the track back, which was really, really nicely done, by the way, Tyra. And here, again, so for me, I'll be working on a short leash. However, still, the method works. And Vino gets back to work independently, picks up the track again, follows it up really, really well here, especially, again, considering the wind, considering the amount of time that they've been away from the track outside of odor. locating the track layout. So a really, really good track and some really, really great lessons drawn out of it.